I'm going to have Devin play a video this morning for you. Feel free to laugh, because it's meant to laugh. It's not serious, okay? And the more you get to know me, you'll know I love to laugh and not be serious all the time. So, Devin, will you play the video for me?
Try Jesus, not me, 'cause I throw hands. Try Jesus, please don't try me, because I'm fine. I know what he said about getting slapped, but if you touch me or mine, we gon' have to scrap. So, try Jesus, please don't try me, because I'm fine. I have no problem laying these hands. Try Jesus, don't try me, 'cause I throw hands. Try Jesus, please don't try me, because I'm fine. Oh, you said, turn the other cheek. Oh, but that's one part of the Bible that just don't sit right with me. So try Jesus, please don't try me, 'cause I find I have no problem laying these hands.
Come on, let's be real. If somebody tries your family, we gon' fight. Anyways, it is a good morning to be in the house of the Lord. And so, why am I playing that video? Is because this Wednesday night starts our youth and young adults, and Jess and I are just super excited. I mean, I'm so excited I almost can't contain it. And so we're going to start a series with them titled Try Jesus. And we're going to talk about trying Jesus in our schools, trying Jesus in our relationships and friendships, trying Jesus in our situations and in our problems. And we're just going to go through some things with them where in situations and things in their lives, or maybe they try other things. They forget about Jesus as the ultimate thing for all of it. So, but this morning, I'm going to challenge you as parents and challenge you as adults to try Jesus in 3 areas of your life. So number 1, in your finances. And you're like, oh great, here we go. Pastor's not here this morning, so somebody had to talk about money, right? Yep, that's me. In your finances, it's so very, very important that you give to the Lord. And I remember my nanny's funeral about a month or so ago. My uncle was talking about how when she was put into the nursing home like 2.5 years ago, we had to spend down her money for her Medicare, Medicaid, whatever she had, to kick in so that they would pay for it for her, because if you don't know, nursing homes are like stupid expensive, okay? And so she had a bunch of money in her account, and so they had to spend it down so that she would qualify. She could never have over a certain amount in her checking account. Now, there was ways afterwards that you found out there's like an asset protection program that we could have done, but it was too late. We'd already spent the money. And we fixed up her house and bought her things for her nursing home room, blah, blah, blah. There's a lot of things. Anyways, so my uncle was in charge of making sure there was never over that amount in her account. And Nanny always gave, like above and beyond. She gave faithfully. And she told my uncle, she said, whatever money I have left over from Social Security, you make sure you tithe to the church. And she's like, you better make sure you do that. And he's like, okay, Mom, I'll make sure I give it to the Lord. And so he said it was a constant challenge to make sure she never had over the amount in her account. She got a stimulus check. So he had to spend that. He had to figure out a way to spend that. She got like a reimbursement from something, or she had overpaid like years ago, like extra $500. And he's like, I was constantly laughing like, God, like seriously, can you help me out? I can't spend enough of her money. I don't know what else to buy. We've bought her a TV. We've bought her, new flooring for her house and a couch for her house. And it's not even it that my grandfather was staying at. And he's like, I don't literally know what else I'm going to spend. So he would put back money, like when my grandfather passed away, she paid for the funeral. Like everything was taken care of. So he was like, I guess I add money for the food when she passes, And so he said it was just constantly like God was continuously blessing her because she continued to be faithful to him. And yesterday I called my parents, and my parents have been pastors my whole life. When I was little, they were youth pastors, which is why I loved that desire and passion. It was birthed in me at a really young age. And I remember one time in particular when they were youth pastors, they said there was one point where they didn't know how they were going to pay the bills, but they made sure they paid their tithes. And we came home from church on this Sunday, and I still don't know why we checked the mail on a Sunday, because it doesn't run on Sunday. I don't know if we forgot on Saturday, but we checked the mail, and there was a check in the mail, and it literally paid for what we were going to be short. And so I called Mom yesterday. I was like, please tell me that this is true. Like, I'm not like dreaming this, because I don't want to ever say anything that's like false information. And she's like, I'm pretty sure that happened. Sis, that's been a really long time ago. I was like, yeah, I know. We've grown up since then. And she said, but I will tell you that it was probably like 3 years ago, something like that. It was before they went and became full-time pastors in Oklahoma. She said we were visiting a church. They were just serving. And she said, we had just been praying that the Lord would help us, because at that point they were having some financial problems. And she said one day after church, the pastor came up to her and said, someone in the church wanted me to give this to you. And we just wrote it from the church because they wanted it to be completely anonymous. And so she's like, okay, well, thank you. We don't know who to thank, but tell them we said thank you. And they get out to the car, and it's $1,000. And she'd never told me this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to make sure I put that in here. I was like, that's just so cool. And so I have stories like that where God is, and I could tell you like all day, stories that God has done in Justin and mine's life as we've been married, of how he's blessed us because we give to him. And it's not being like boastful, but we always give more than God's asking of 10%. We always do. But this right here, the reason that adults have such a hard time tithing is because it wasn't instilled in them as a child. And my parents told my brother and I how important it was to give and how God always provided. Maybe not always in money, but in good health and a sound mind and job opportunities. It's always not just about giving faithfully, but fully, even in the least. And Mom said, sis, Nanny always told us, no matter how much money we made, we better make sure. She said, we give that 10% back to the Lord. She said, we would do a chore and make $1. She's like, that 10 cents better be in the offering tomorrow, And she said she taught us how important it was to do that. So I challenge you as parents, teach your kids how important it is to give, because then when they become adults, it's just human nature. It's just natural for them to do that. Luke 16:10 says, he who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. And he who is unjust in least is also in much. So it's even in the small things that God is asking you to be faithful in giving. But we have such a hard time giving him fully, but we can give faithfully. Leviticus 27:30, and all of the tithe of the land, whether of the seed of the land or of the fruit of the tree, it is the Lord's. It is holy to the Lord. Don't forget that Christ first loved you. That's one thing. When I was preparing this, I just thought, so God's asking us here to give to him. And he first loved us. And that's Proverbs 3:9. It says, honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first fruits of all your increase. The first fruits. So why is Christ asking us to give first? Because he first loved us. He first chose you. He first handpicked you. He first crafted you. He thought of you first. And he's asking you to do the same thing. But what if God was like, I'm just too busy watching my other children that I just can't protect and love Hannah today, okay? I just can't do it. Maybe when one of these kids comes and sees me in heaven, I'll have a little bit more time to watch Hannah. But no, he's like, I choose her first every single day. And I choose you first every single day, so make sure you give fully because he first chose you.
Come on.
Proverbs, I already said that. Tithe literally means tenth. If you look it up, it literally means tenth. But we struggle with that tenth. Tithing was never meant to be an option. It was a requirement.
Yes.
Why is giving 10% so hard when God allows you to keep the 90? Get quiet in here. Is getting paid at your job an option or is it a requirement? If I work 40 hours a week, I better get paid for 40 hours a week.
Come on.
So God's like, I'm not asking you to give, I'm telling you because there's so many more benefits because you gave faithfully and you gave fully. I'll just tell you, Justin and I, we are fixing to start fostering if you don't know. And so when we started this process, we had to get physicals done. And we went to get our physicals and we had just switched jobs, so our new insurance hadn't kicked in yet. And so it was $150 for both of us, for each of us to go get a physical. And so I'm like, okay, so I got billed like a month later, and I was like, well, here's the bill for the physical. And they said, your insurance might backdate if you ask. And I'm like, well, I'm not asking my previous employer. They said I was done when I walked out. So that's it, And so I got to looking. Well, Justin had like an outstanding balance from 4 years ago before we got married. How it was missed, I have no idea. But there was like $76 just sitting there. So now $76 plus the $150. I'm like, well, that bill just went up. That's wonderful. And so anyways, we give, okay? We give fully, we give faithfully. And I went to go and pay that bill like a month or so ago, whatever it was. And I paid off all mine because I have like a health savings account through work, so I put so much back every paycheck. So I paid all mine off, and then I went to go and pay his, and I was like, ma'am, I want to pay for Justin Torrey. And she was like, okay. I show a balance of $76. And I was like, no, I have another bill here for $150. She's like, I show that insurance paid that on the 1st. It was like 5 days before I called and paid this. And I was like, well, I'm not going to argue with you, so I appreciate that. I want to pay that off right now. And if anybody ever says my bills are less than they are, I ain't going to argue. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to pay it. So I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, you're not going to believe this. Like, that was paid. I don't know how that was paid. And she's like, well, sis, it's because you faithfully give in your tithes. And I was like, okay, well, that's pretty cool. So God is just so good. This right here, giving your 10% could bring blessings into your life for generations. It's just simple as that, of making sure you're giving the full 10% could bless your life for generations. I don't know about you, but I want my kids and I want my children's children to reap the blessings of my faithfulness. And that's exactly how I picture my nanny, is that she is still reaping the blessings because she was faithful in giving to the Lord. And all of her kids and most of her grandkids are serving in ministry because she gave. And I'm not saying, you're like, because you give, your kids are going to be called to preach. There's other things that are so much more important to serve the Lord in. But because she gave, we still see blessings in her life and in her family's lives. So it's just amazing. So number 2, try Jesus in your family. Here we go. Joshua 24:15. But as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. It's not just talking about the 4 walls that you walk into in your home. It's this right here, your heart. Is your heart serving the Lord? Is this serving Jesus? And it's challenging your kids to do the same thing. It's time to be a parent. And I'm not just talking about a parent. I'm talking about being real. And letting your kids, letting your teens, and even of adults, they see when you walk in here on Sunday mornings, or when we start walking in here on Wednesday nights, they see you in the grocery store, they see you driving down the road when someone cuts you off. It tests you, right? Come on now. I will openly admit that my husband is the worst about it, okay? We'll be driving, and if someone cuts him off, it's the brakes, and the horn is being slammed, and it's, Jesus, help them, you stupid idiot. And I'm like, honey, one time I literally said this, honey, they cannot hear you, but you know who can? Me, and I don't want to hear it, okay? Just pray protection over us, okay? And anyways, so they see you. They see how real you are. They see how you react to certain things. You show them by your speech, by your actions, and by your representation of Jesus. Every day, they see how you are going to react to things. Let your children hear your prayers. One thing my parents were really good about, my brother and I, is they wouldn't just pray for us. They would pray over us and with us. We got to hear their prayers for us and with us. And Justin and I, we have made a promise to each other that not only are we going to pray for the kids that we foster and the kids that we have in our lives, but we are also going to pray with them and over them. Because the kids that we're going to get into our homes that are needing foster and needing love definitely need those prayers. And it's not just about praying for them, that God, I just pray that you would reveal hope to them and love to them that I never could. But letting them hear those prayers. And he has a god sister who would stay with us on Friday and Saturday nights every other week. And we just began, just one day I said, honey, I just feel like we need to pray with her. And he's like, okay. So she had been coming over for like a year before we decided to do this. And so one night, this Friday night, I said, Heaven, we're going to pray. She was like, what? And I was like, yeah, we're going to pray together. And she was like, okay. And I said, do you have anything you want us to pray about? Is there anything going on in your day, in your school, in your home that you want us to pray with you about? And she was like, no. I was like, well, honey, I'm just so glad that everything is perfect in your life, and I'm just going to pray that everything stays that way, okay? Because at one point, there's things that may get rocky, all right? Because this is part of life. And so I said, but I want you to pray with Justin and I, because we're going to start fostering, and we're starting another church, and we're starting new jobs, and I want you to pray with us for this. And she's like, okay. So we began praying over her and with her. And then after a couple of weeks, and she finally had things she wanted us to pray about. And, I want us to pray about this boy. He's just not talking to me. And I'm like, here we go. Anyways. But I want those kids, and even those teenagers that come in here on Wednesday nights, I want them to know that there is a God that loves them. Come on. And that he can bring hope, even when their life may seem like it's hopeless. Because Justin and I, we were seniors 8 years ago. Seems like forever ago. And for some of you, you're like, well, only 8 years. Amen. I just don't remember things being so easy as it is for teens now to get their hands on. We didn't have this stupid TikTok. I mean, I know Pastor Joel and them are trying to help me get into that so I can relate to some teenagers, but I feel like if I'm doing that, I'm having a seizure, okay? Some of these dances they've got literally looks like they're having a seizure on screen, and they've got millions of views. I don't know how it happens, but we didn't have all that. And so we had other things we could have fun with and everything. We had social media, obviously. But it's just, there's things so easy, and they are so wrapped up in pleasing so many people. And so I want them to know that they don't have to please the world. Just please Jesus, because he's the one that breathes life into your lungs, not the world. And so we want to show them the love of Jesus. We want to encourage them in Christ and help them to realize they have a prosperous future in serving Jesus. Never say their ideas of serving Jesus are crazy. And talk about my nanny again, because she's just pretty special to my life. But when I was really, really little, I was probably 7 or 8, something like that. I know it was during the summer, but I would go to her house and spend all day. She was 2 houses from me, so I would walk to her house every day. And Nanny's cooking is probably what kept me there, because It was real good. And so I'd walk up there and she would watch me and she would spend time with me. And I'm like, all right, Nanny, you ready to have church? She's like, that's right, honey. So she'd get her Bible out and I'd get mine out and I would read John 3:16 every single time because it was easy to remember. And I would preach to her about that verse. And I'm like, all right, we're going to take up offering. And so she would hand me some money. And I gave it back to her. Obviously, it was hers. And then we would do testimonies and prayer requests. And she never once said that was stupid. Like, she encouraged that. And I thought that was just so cool. Because of her encouraging that when I was little, I'm preaching to you today. Because she never once thought that was dumb. And I'm like, so today we took up offering. And today I'm preaching to you. And today I'm singing to you. And it's just amazing when you encourage your kids to love Jesus and to love the calling that God has already placed on their lives. When they were born, when they were in the womb, God already had a plan for their lives. And so parents and adults, you have such a responsibility to pour into those kids and encourage that calling to grow. You have it in you. So as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. This house right here will represent Jesus so those kids see Jesus. How great it is when the father can speak for the house. He rules his house well. So dads, you have a responsibility. But so do you, moms. So many dads are seeking to escape the responsibilities of the family and of the home. So many moms abandoning their kids. They are strangers to their own children. What a strong influence the father and the mother have on their family.
Yes.
Your son is learning his father role from you. Your daughter is learning her mother role from you. The influence can be for good or for evil. They're going to pick up the things you do. I always laugh when a kid says a curse word. I don't laugh because of the curse word. I laugh because the parents say, I don't know where they learned that from. I'm like, who do they live with? Well, it was a neighbor's kid. They were the ones pick different neighbors. I don't know what to tell you. Anyways, how reprehensible when a father and a mother have evil, polluting influence on their family. How sad it is. Because they are not just going into the pits themselves, but they're dragging their family with them. Ouch. Some children never have a chance. How beautiful when a father and mother will lead their whole family to serve Jesus. That's what my nanny did. She pushed every single one of us to love Jesus, no matter how it looked, just to love him and serve him. How blessed are their children. And here's a really sad statistic. Almost 700 children are in foster care in Sebastian County. This is our county, y'all. Almost 700 children. The parents don't want to be a parent or a parent. They don't want to be real to their kids. They don't want to fulfill that role. They just, someone else take care of it.
They want to be a parent.
Pastor Justin and I are only allotted so much time with your teenagers. Pastor Treva is only given so much time with your kids. You can't rely on us to lead them to Jesus. They are watching you. They are with you every single day. They're watching by your actions, by your speech, and by your heart for the Lord. They're watching you. So number 3, and lastly, in your faith. Try Jesus in your faith. What do you believe? Do you believe in Jesus? Is your faith aligned with his word? You never know when the next moment could be your last. And 2 weeks ago, I had a friend of mine I've known a really, really long time. He was hang gliding in Alma, and the harness or something came loose, and he fell 80 feet. And when they got to him, he was non-responsive. So they life flighted him to Little Rock, and his mom and my mom have been best friends for a really long time. And so she called my mom and was like, I need you to pray. She's very hysterical. I can only imagine. He was 31 years old. Same age as my brother. And she's like, I'm driving up there right now. And so mom's like, well, we'll be praying. And my parents were actually at our house when this happened. And so we just began praying for him. And they got there with him and noticed that there was so many broken bones and ribs, and there was major brain damage. And last Friday, they brought him back here to Fort Smith, and he stayed in the specialty select hospital inside of Baptist Health so that his mom could see him, because they would not let her in up there. I can only imagine what that would feel like. I'm not a parent yet, but watching your kid and knowing how bad they are and not being able to go in that room, try Jesus, I'm fixing to lay some hands, right? So I'm going to fight to get in that room with my child. But anyways, they brought him here, and that Friday night they told her there's nothing we can do. We've done everything we can do. There's major brain damage, and if he ever wakes up, which we don't think he will, he'll never walk again. And so we continued to pray for him, and Sunday night, my mom and I took her to dinner just so that she could kind of get her mind off of it for a little bit, and just got to visit with her. We came home, and we had been home maybe 2 hours, and she called and said he passed away. And so, of course, we're all like bawling because we've known him for such a long time. My mom started babysitting him when he was like 6 or 7. So we've known him for a really long time. And just something struck me, and I texted my brother. And I said, Bub, I want you to know I love you. And losing David was like losing a brother. And I said, I want you to make sure your life is right with Christ, because you never know when your next moment could be your last. And I said, you know, trusting in Jesus is so important. And I don't ever want to hope and pray that you had enough time to ask God into your heart. I don't ever want to wonder if that could happen. We got home, and I was telling my mom, I said, I just wonder how long it took him to fall from 80 feet to hit the ground. And everything I searched was about 2.5 seconds. Can never imagine what 2.5 seconds would feel like. And Dad said, you know, I'm just praying that in that time he just asked the Lord, forgive me. And I said, you know, but I also believe in God loves us enough that when he created David, he created every brain cell and everything to adhere to God's voice. And I firmly believe that God spoke to David when he was in a coma, and he showed love to David. And David, through his mind, because how cool God is, asked him into his heart. I believe that. And so we had the funeral this week, but it's just crazy. You never know. What do you believe? Let your kids see what you believe. Every day we're walking, talking, living just like Jesus. Each and every day is a moment graciously given to you to serve Jesus. To believe even when you don't see it, like we sang about this morning. To believe even when you don't feel it. To try Jesus in every circumstance. Try Jesus in every situation. Try Jesus when you feel hopeless. Try Jesus when you feel unloved. Try Jesus when you need healing. Try Jesus when you need freedom. Try Jesus because you need Jesus. You need him. Let your faith be stronger than your fear. Hebrews 11:1. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. Psalms 46:10. Be still and know that I am God. And then 2 Corinthians 5:7. For we walk by faith and not by sight. How many times do we let life weigh us down by what we see? I'm guilty of it. Have you heard the saying, looks can be deceiving? And I'm not talking about when you look at a person, okay? I'm talking about just a situation. Sometimes we see the situation, we see the problem, and we base our faith on what we're seeing right then. But God's the one that sees the future. He's the one that sees the whole thing, the whole picture. And he sees you overcoming, and he sees you being victorious. We always base our situations on what we see, but that's when we aren't having faith. Faith isn't about seeing. Faith is about believing. See, we think of like Santa Claus, and we're like, seeing is believing, right? No, believing is seeing. When you're with Christ, believing is seeing. When you believe, you see the things that he has for you. Faith is about remembering how faithful God has been time and time again to you, and remembering that he will never let you down, that he will always come through. There's been so many times in our lives, and with me and Justin being together, that we're like, I don't know how we're going to do this. I don't know how this is going to work out. You know, we're stressing right now because we're selling our house and we're in God's hands. But that's why we sing the song Waymaker. And if Devin could find that on the computer or something or play that for me. I forgot to tell him that this morning. But the song Waymaker is, even when I don't see it, you're working. And even when I don't feel it, you're working. God is working. He always works behind the scenes. And it's like, God, can I go behind the scenes with you and see what you're doing? But then he's like, no, I just want to test your faith. I want to see how strong you are. So this final time, as I close, I'm challenging you today as parents and as adults. And are you trying Jesus in your finances? Are you trying Jesus in your family? Are you trying Jesus in your faith? Are you trying Jesus in all areas of your life? I just want us to close our eyes for a moment. No one looking around. I'm not going to ask you guys to raise your hand or anything like that. I just want us to take a moment to evaluate our lives. I want to challenge us to spend some time in prayer, just one-on-one, you and God. If you want to come forward and pray with someone, you can. If you want to stay seated, you can do that too. But I want this moment right now to be between you and God, because your family is counting on you. Your spouse is counting on you. And God is counting on you. What areas of your life are lacking full trust to the Lord? God, we just praise you this morning. God, I just pray right now as we just listen to this song and know that you are the way maker, that you move even when we don't see it and even when we don't feel it, that you are working. And God, I just pray right now that we can evaluate our lives and ask you to help us in these areas that may be weak. Maybe we're not giving fully to you. Maybe we're just giving faithfully. And we need you to help us to give fully. Even if that means a bill doesn't get paid, that we know that you're going to be faithful and come through and provide. Maybe we're not trying Jesus in our family. Maybe our kids aren't seeing you by our actions and by our words and by our heart for you. God, help us. And God, in our faith, if we don't know you, if we don't have that relationship with you, if we don't believe that you are good every single day, help us. God, I just pray that we can just take a few moments this morning to ask you to come into our hearts and help the places that are weak and make them strong for you. That we can represent you well. These kids that watch us, we can be the best influence we can be for them. God, we just praise you. I just challenge you, if you want to worship him just for a few moments, I promise you the buffet will still be open when we get done. I just challenge you just to spend time in prayer, just for a moment. Oh, Devin, just turn this up in just a moment just to pray and seek God's face.